Blue skies have supplanted the storm clouds which had been forecast for the Green Bay Packers of head coach Bart Starr. Green Bay won their fourth game last week against Detroit, equaling their entire victory output from the season before. The win moved them to the head of the NFC Central and resulted because of, and in spite of, some highly aggressive play. Youth and overexuberance occasionally cost the Packers, yet when this excited fury was properly dispersed, Detroit quarterbacks found themselves in trouble. Green Bay sacked the Lions 6 times, bringing their seasonal count to 23, best in the NFL. With less time to operate, opposing quarterbacks are finding fewer receivers open, and frequently the prayers they offer up are answered by the Green Bay Packers secondary. This interception by free safety Johnny Gray brought the Packers' 5-game total to 12, an NFL high. But while the defense has been an unexpected surprise, Green Bay's offense has been a shock. Bart Starr seems to have finally found a leader in number 17, David Whitehurst, and his firm hand on the reins of this explosive attack completely destroyed Detroit. Whitehurst received his ground support from second-year runner Turdell Middleton, number 34, who bolted for 148 yards. Middleton's 76-yard jaunt was the longest in the NFL this season, yet it was but one of a host of Green Bay's spectacular efforts. 2 others were engineered by Whitehurst and another unknown second-year wide receiver, Andre Thompson, number 43. Twice, Thompson ghosted through the Detroit secondary to scare up Packer points. And when the chase finally ended, Green Bay had frightened Detroit something awful, 35-14. After a 6-year absence, a group of relatively unknown athletes have initiated title talk in Titletown, USA once more. When the Giants met the Falcons last Sunday, the theme might well have been, warning, playing quarterback may be hazardous to your health. Throughout the afternoon, both defensive units kept a tight fist on the offensive proceedings, and touchdowns came hard and in unusual ways. New York's best offense proved to be their special teams as number 55 Brian Kelly combined with George Martin to chalk up one of 2 Giant touchdowns. Atlanta, on the other hand, finally found their attack as number 10 Steve Bartkowski regained his confidence with a little help from Wallace Francis, number 89. Francis caught 7 passes totaling 153 yards. Even bigger than this 54-yard catch and carry, however, was this beauty that saved the Falcons on a 4th down and 4 to go in the game's final 2 minutes. Francis hauled the Falcons down to the Giants' 9-yard line, and 1 play later, Haskell Stanback, number 24, closed out a 23-20 come-from-behind Atlanta win. Way down yonder in New Orleans, everybody knows how to stomp their feet to the music, move in the groove, and get down with some wicked hand jive. In fact, until this season, the Woeful Saints were just about the dullest act in town. But now number 8, Archie Manning, has put together a crowd-pleasing review of wild escapes and high-flying thrills, co-starring acrobatic receivers like number 82, Ike Harris. Last week against Los Angeles, Manning and Harris put on an end-zone magic show that completely befuddled the Western Division leading Rams. It was all quite exciting for the Saints, even though the Rams didn't enjoy being included in the celebration. The New Orleans upswing coincides with Manning's hard-won maturity, which includes delivering the ball to secondary targets, like sure-handed running back Tony Galbraith, number 34. The Los Angeles defense had given up the fewest points in the NFL this season, only 34 in 4 games before Archie and friends roughed it up with 3 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, the New Orleans Saints retained one old habit, the propensity for self-destruction at the most inopportune moments. Number 49, Rod Perry, scored with the only interception Manning threw all day. And number 11, Pat Hayden, underscored the gap that still remains in the NFC West with a pretty rainbow to his favorite deep receiver, Willie Miller, number 82. Los Angeles held on against improved New Orleans for a 26-20 triumph to remain undefeated after 5 weeks. But while the Saints have only 2 victories, they are still better off than the winless Cincinnati Bengals, who added a new member to their traveling squad last week. But not even divine intervention and the return of quarterback Kenny Anderson could help Bengal head coach Bill Johnson last week. San Francisco's Anthony Leonard intercepted 3 Anderson aerials, including 1 for a score, as the 49ers added to Cincinnati's early season woes. But the Gold Rushers were also without a victory, and not without merit. New 49er quarterback Steve DeBerg, number 17, has been trying to find some way to include sore-legged superstar O.J. Simpson in the offense. Against Cincinnati, O.J. scored his first 49er touchdown by catching instead of running, before leaving the game with still more knee miseries. But ever since training camp, DeBerg knew this wouldn't be a one-man team. He has worked hard to round out his offensive approach, using newcomers like number 84, Elmo Boyd, in the passing attack. DeBerg's infantry now includes an improving offensive line and runners like determined Paul Hoffer, number 36, for bruising ground power. The 28-12 final gave San Francisco win number 1 and cost Bill Johnson his job. Now Cincinnati assistant Homer Rice takes over the Bengal hot seat. Meanwhile, across the country in Tampa Bay, it was Orange Sunday as over 65,000 Buccaneer fans, dressed in team colors, watched rookie quarterback Doug Williams, number 12, launch a few bombs into the Minnesota Vikings secondary. Morris Owens' juggle and run gave Tampa Bay high hopes for a second upset victory over Minnesota in only 3 weeks. But the tide turned as suddenly as the western Florida weather, because the wily Vikes just know too many ways to win. On a day when the sun shone brightly while it poured down rain, those spoil sport Vikings put a wet blanket over Tampa Bay's Orange Sunday, 24-7. Since making the playoffs as a wild card last season, the Chicago Bears have been geared to supplant the Vikings as division leaders of the NFC Central. They appeared right on schedule by winning their first 3 games this year, and even a close Monday night loss to Minnesota 2 weeks ago couldn't dampen the enthusiasm that permeates Soldier Field. Last week's opponents were the Oakland Raiders, seemingly vulnerable with a .500 record and a quarterback who ranked 13th of 14 in his conference. But against the Bears, Kenny Stabler was simply brilliant, passing for 278 yards without an interception. 18 of his 25 completions went to Raider wide receivers. The big moment for the Bears came when Virgil Livers blocked an Oakland field goal try, and Mike Spivey, number 47, scooped up the ball on one bounce and high-stepped 71 yards for a Chicago touchdown. Despite the long score, Oakland tied the game at 19 apiece with just 5 seconds left to play. The sudden death overtime that followed turned on one defensive play by the Raiders. Neil Colsey in the lineup as a 6th defensive back picked off Bob Avellini's pass and took the theft 24 yards to the Chicago 3. It was the first time John Madden ever employed a 6-back secondary, and it paid off. For several plays later, rookie scatback Art Whittington swept the remaining distance untouched. The sudden victory gave Oakland a much-needed uplift, while the disappointed Bears suffered a second straight loss and dropped into second place behind Green Bay. In Buffalo, Kansas City's wing T offense again ran rampant, averaging nearly 6.5 yards per carry against the Bills' generous defense. In contrast to the Chiefs' relentless ground game, Buffalo's setbacks had a tough time moving the ball. The man that made the difference was Buffalo's number 12, Joe Ferguson, the number 1 ranked quarterback statistically in the entire NFL. For the 4th consecutive game, Ferguson threw 2 touchdown passes. Against the Chiefs, both went to Bob Chandler, number 81. The 29-year-old Arkansas Rifle has had a spectacular season so far, hitting on 62% of his passes for over 700 yards, only 3 interceptions and 8 touchdowns. One of the reasons is that underrated Bob Chandler can no longer be double-teamed due to the addition of former Steeler Frank Lewis as the other wideout. The Bills' high-powered passing opened up the Chiefs' defense enough so that late in the game, the running attack began to click, as evidenced by this 22-yard touchdown run by Curtis Brown. It was the final score in Buffalo's 28-13 win over Kansas City. And for the first time since the juice left the Bills, Buffalo fans have something to cheer about. A second straight victory under new head coach Chuck Knox. On the final play of the first half in Baltimore, Eagles quarterback Ron Jaworski threw one up in desperation. Unfortunately, this play was nullified by a penalty. Many Eagle teams of recent years would have abandoned their game plan at this point, but this year's squad went to Baltimore intending to run. Philadelphia's persistent ground game yielded dividends as it helped sustain 3 second-half scoring drives, the first of which culminated in the hands of tight end Keith Prefley, number 84. Trepley's catch made the score 14-7. Later in period 4, Philadelphia marched 71 yards to a field goal, reducing Baltimore's lead to 4. Then with less than 3 minutes to play, a second-year running back made the comeback complete. Number 31 is Wilbert Montgomery, one of those little-known, hard-working types who is bringing the Eagles back into contention. Granted, 3 straight wins do not a dynasty make, but 3 wins it is as Dick Vermeil's spirited young team continues to improve, while Ted Marchibroda's injury-riddled Colts continue to slide downhill. In Cleveland, the Houston Oilers likewise won a game in the final moments, but with a bit more controversy. This contested catch by Houston's Kenny Burrow evoked the league's mutual possession rule, which states simply that when a receiver and a defender share a reception, the offensive team gets the ball. From another angle, note that the football is never the exclusive possession of either player. Thus, when Burrow maintained his share of the catch, the official correctly ruled a completion. Needless to say, it was not a popular decision in Cleveland, and it brought the garbage out of the stands. Order was never quite restored at this end of Municipal Stadium, and the noise and debris made a continuation of play virtually impossible. And so the game was moved to the other end, where Tony Frisch calmly kicked the game winner. While Cleveland's loss was somewhat unfortunate, the St. Louis Cardinals' 5th defeat of the season was hard-earned. St. Louis's once potent offense has been buried by mistakes and faulty execution. Blocking such as this is why the Cardinals have scored the fewest points in football. While the Cardinals looked bad in losing to Miami 24-10, Terry Bradshaw of the Steelers couldn't have looked much better. Off to his best start ever, Bradshaw threw for 3 touchdowns against the New York Jets as Pittsburgh remained the only unbeaten team in the AFC. The Jets, however, made it interesting. Reserve quarterback Matt Robinson, number 17, avoided the steel curtain long enough to set up 17 Jet points. Not a bad day against Pittsburgh. But reserve quarterbacks don't often beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and last week was no exception. Steelers 28, Jets 17. Denver, on the other hand, sent out reserves Norris Weiss, number 14, who ran for a score, and also threw one to number 32, John Keyworth, and number 12, Craig Penrose, who tossed this 4-yarder to rookie Dave Preston, as Denver iced away the pesky Seattle Seahawks 28-7. For the Broncos, win number 4 in defense of their AFC title. Only a few teams appear capable of unseating Denver as conference champions. Among the more likely candidates are the New England Patriots, a team that seems to enjoy winning football games the hard way. Against San Diego, the Patriots once again fell behind early. But by now, quarterback Steve Grogan has grown accustomed to rallying his team in the second half, and his accuracy down the stretch made the difference. Grogan's 6-yard fourth-quarter strike to tight end Russ Francis made the score 23-21. Then, with just seconds left in the game, the big kid from Kansas State exercised his favorite option. Some say Steve Grogan is the weak link on this team. And yet on 2 consecutive Sundays, he's rallied the Patriots to come from behind wins over the Raiders and the Chargers. For better or worse, the future of this strong young club is in his hands.